Morning or afternoon.
Afternoon, as
Welcome.
it turns out this one is.
Yeah, we've changed up our routine. We've decided to go for the lighter side of life. If you're not aware, welcome to Carpool CPD with Mike and John. But this one's a bit of a change up. We're gonna include the video. Just because we are so attractive to look at.
We just thought it just adds another dimension, doesn't it? So here we are recording on a Friday afternoon as opposed to a Friday morning, so we can't necessarily guarantee the quality of our discourse at the end of a busy week.
No, I know. So. And we've decided to pick the first video for a storm on our way back home. So we'll wait and see. Anyway, on to the topic. Why not? Is our kind of exciting topic to go for today.
Not as in why not, as in why not do this? But actually, why not? What are the times when AI actually might not be the correct choice? Or what are the reasons for not using it?
Yeah, I think we've discussed that we are enthusiasts. But actually, we had a chat, I think, on Wednesday, as always, and just we were talking about a few reasons where actually at the moment, where's not the best place to put some of these things. It might be, we might find as we get through the time that it could get better. I was listening, I read an article from, and I forget his name, the head of Anthropic.
Oh yes, yeah.
He was talking about the fact that he doesn't like the term AGI,
Artificial General Intelligence.
He says, it's kind of a buzz term for marketing, but actually his opinion that generative AI will be in the end better at humans at everything. And I thought, okay, interesting, because at this moment, where it's not there now. So what do you reckon? Where's your big thing that you're not using it for a specific part of your teaching?
For me, at the minute, it's probably the bit that I don't use it for is marking. I think that at the minute, for particularly my subject areas, it is too vulnerable to a whole range of different factors that influence that kind of ranking and subjectiveness. It's good at feedback, but that's very different from grading. Grading and that, okay, this bit is better than that bit.
Also, it's how necessary is it? The whole point of that mark, what is the purpose of that? And really, it's right at the end, we need to know where they are. And
we need to know where they are. And to do that, we need to also see what they're doing. So we need to get eyes on that. So
it's probably, I would say, how good is it? It's definitely not going to be as consistent as we are. I don't think it, I would agree with you. Even on some of the best platforms, I wouldn't trust it as much as I would trust myself at marking something. No. Even with the vagaries of our minds, I still would say we would be better at that.
It's interesting. One of the kind of like the biggest platforms, Daisy Christodoulou puts together, runs a platform called No More Marking, which is about comparative judgments. So it's about helping kind of like look at your students' work against a body of other students' work, so you get that idea of a kind of a spectrum of where the work itself is on against other pieces of work, which is the most effective way of doing things. And if we think about what we do when we assign marks, we are trying to rank order them. This one is better than that one because, and they've been introducing generative AI into their platform, and they've been very clear they've not managed to get it to be particularly effective at doing that ranking or making that decision. They've been able to get good feedback, and they're implementing feedback into their platform, but they're still saying like we just don't think it's effective enough at marking. Just even something simple like the order in which you give two papers can change the attitude of the LLM towards which one it thinks is better. Whatever comes first tends to be viewed more positively.
It might be what I have noticed is certainly through the platform and Enlighten AI is quite good at marking. The smaller it is, the better, the more consistent. So that's something where grading can take away workload and be consistent.
Well, certainly if you're dealing with something like, I don't know, a multiple choice questions where it's right or wrong.
Absolutely. And then even 2-mark questions, where you have a sentence and it's generally going to be around a certain subject and you have example answers in that. But I would 100% agree. Grading, no. Feedback,
well, so where's your no? Where is the place you don't put it?
Well, it's in mine's revision. And I'm not saying it can't be used entirely, I just don't think it's as good as me. I'm going to go out there. Like, and actually, it's really the kids that they've got to work out their revision method. They have to work out their own individual plan, and that's something I really engage with, especially GCSE, A-level, even down to year 7, encouraging the different formats. Like, modelling is a huge thing. Can AI model? That's an interesting one.
Well, probably could, but you'd have to give it some very specific instructions. I think the problem is it's like when we're saying this, we're kind of asking, what could a raw LLM do?
Yeah.
And the fact is, a raw LLM is such a generalized tool, and I think that's part of the problem, that like part of this discussion gets kind of mixed up between what could you use an AI to power in terms of you providing a framework and a platform and an application for it, and then just using a raw LLM.
Yeah. And my big thing is, like, revision is so individual. It's so important to work out how you do it, so those students need to be really reflective. And sometimes the most simple methods are the most effective. I always talk to the kids about one method really: whiteboard and a pen. And it's active recall. And I just think no matter who you are, no matter what your method, that can be key. Now, AI could be used on the background of that to help produce and help especially students that struggle to really reduce the volume of content, like in a subject like psychology, where it's huge volumes.
Oh dear. Sorry, we're driving through a storm-tossed landscape, and there are bits of the exterior of the
outside's more interesting than my answers.
Sorry, it's just there are bits of the outside threatening to come onto the road.
So I think there may be some of that to help develop some of the revision tools, but ultimately to help revise, learn, and memorise that information. And it is all about memory when we're talking about some of those aspects of revision. I don't think it's going to be as good, and I think there's a long way up it.
Well, I think the problem is, isn't it, that you there you go, to prove that we're live. That was my lane departure warning system kicking in. Because revision is a process, and what often you find with AI is that students are using it to get a product.
Yeah.
And if what you're doing is getting a product, then you're not going through a process. Unless what you do is you really go through unless you really get into some kind of discursive mode, unless you're very much iterating, unless you're exploring AI as a thought partner, which is something that's like, if you don't spend time with these tools and you've not been shown how they work, the tendency is to just go for them as something that creates a product, and revision's a process. And
I think at the moment they very much view it as what they can get out of it. However, in this next week at school, we are going to be teaching the students how to do that, how to prompt it effectively, how to question it, how not to just view it as an output, how to use it more effectively.
But I mean, even then,
are getting it.
But I think I've just thought there. I was like, oh, well, actually, unfortunately, we're still framing this in terms of how to get the best product.
Yep.
But we need to foreground. We probably need to tweak the slides a bit. Like how to foreground that process. I think we could add that in, really, couldn't we?
Yep.
Like focus on the process of how did you get here, because that's the more important thing.
And what do you want next out of it?
Yeah.
Are you a good example? Even today, I've got students using Perplexity AI, and some of them were using it to help them with their writing. And I don't have a particular issue, because ultimately what I've communicated with the students is be very aware that this is not going to write your exam. They are 100% exam. There's no coursework. Ultimately you need to be reflective of, is this helping you?
Yeah.
And if it's not, be very, very careful. But we need to teach them that, because they go home and they can use this stuff. And we need to be helping them to learn that. And I think that's really being open and honest with it, and making sure, especially at A-level, that they're doing it in the right way.
I mean, that is part of the problem, isn't it? That like we can go, oh well, it's just going to give them a product, but ultimately they can get that product whether we want them to or not. Like whether we think it's a good idea doesn't actually matter very much. Whether we want them to use it, whether we're concerned about using it in schools, it doesn't matter. AI doesn't care, and all of the students, they will do whatever they want with it because they've got access to it. Yeah. It's on their phones.
It's it is there, and they are going to use it, and it's very much like, a great example is the social media side of it, isn't it? And I know we're slightly maybe going off topic, but that the social media was out there and we have not protected kids. We still probably don't very well. It is very much out there and the kids are using it, and it's damaging. Well, we need to teach these students to use it effectively, and that's the only way they're going to be good at dealing with it.
But yes,
so,
but for the moment, revision is definitely not going to be like that. And we have to teach them the way to make it good at the thing that we wanted them to be good at, and get them to focus on that process and use it as a process tool. It would be interesting to see if you can develop AI-powered, large language model-powered tools that do focus on that process element, because that's really where you want it. What you want it to do is put guardrails in that say don't give them the answer, actually ask questions.
I think I know you can do it. Custom GPTs can do it, and I think they can do it probably quite effectively. It's the thing to try. It's the next thing to have a go at, and I know really good.
And I know that it does, and I know that it can, because I've used platforms like Mizzou to create custom chatbots with guardrails and specific instructions. Your clever student can red team it, and they can. So red teaming, just for context, is those people who then break the rules and manage to get it to do things you didn't intend on doing. And actually AI companies encourage this so that they can see where the vulnerabilities are, and students are always going to want to try that, but it's actually quite difficult. So if you can provide a platform where you put guardrails in and you say, right, this is what I want you to do, I want you to focus on this, this and this. Now, one of the things I'm going to raise here, which is again maybe slightly off topic, but we are concerned with the effect that jumping straight to the end product has with students, and that we need them to go through that process of learning. We need that creative friction, that not knowing and then finding out. That's how learning takes place. But the problem is that actually our education system does provide a lot of those shortcuts anyway, deliberately to try and get to the end product, because we're too, we do worry about brute forcing it.
So how much do we give them? How much do I really refer to spoon feeding, and there's just so much pressure on every teacher to get results, and a lot of the time it doesn't matter what the effect is on that student. I've got one person I know that says they feel like their life's work of being a teacher is kids are worse. Now that can sometimes be a natural way for our mind to go, but I can understand it. Are kids' skills better than they were? Are kids more resilient? Do they learn better? Are they more effective? There's a big question mark there.
So are there any other places where AI just isn't capable of going, or really just shouldn't be? I wonder. I'm gonna come out with one, and I think that anything where we're making qualitative judgments about, say for instance, whether so a lot of schools will be employing systems where they're deciding what an entry criteria might be for a course or for something like that, and I don't think that we should be doing that algorithmically at all.
What, to make a decision on an entry? No, not at all, because of the bias it has in there. Totally.
And I think anything where you're going to be making decisions like that absolutely has to be a purely human decision. And just anything that has that direct impact, not on an outcome in terms of an academic outcome, but an outcome in terms of what action you take with regards to a student. I think that is just stay away from it.
Quite good at making decisions about who would need intervention. Because it would see it from an unbiased data point of view.
But flagging that information. And again, you'd have to do things like remove names, because actually we know that there are cultural biases built into the training data, and I think the LLMs are getting much better at avoiding that cultural bias, but it's there and you don't necessarily want that. And actually is it less biased than human? Is it less biased than human? It would be the comparison. Well, you have to do that comparison, don't you? We did talk about this last week.
How biased are we? We're incredibly biased.
This anthropocentric view that we have. I probably just mispronounced that. I'm very tired. But this ridiculous perception that we have that we're always better. I have left the autonomous emergency braking system on my car for a reason. But I still think even if it's just for that sense of it feels slightly icky to have a machine in control of these decisions, I do think that's another place where you'd want to avoid it because
you're
that bias
in
there.
control of the car.
I am in control.
This is a great example. You're overseeing it, and that's what we want AI to be. It's a great example, isn't it? We always want to have a hand on the wheel.
Mine will scream at me if I do take them off, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, please don't. And these
No.
So, what we got? Two things: grading, and definitely the learning and revision and getting that memory for students effectively.
Yeah, not until we teach them how to do it and they're motivated enough to want to use it like that.
Yeah.
And again, as we said, then to cap it off, then the decision making. We don't want AI doing that.
Not at the minute.
No.
Not at the minute. Great. So we're going to get out of this wind, and we will hopefully join you if you can get back home, John.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And we'll see you on the next side.
Yeah. See you later.